You see the mouthpiece of this infernal government. I've got to get the brakes on. The trouble is I'm off my tits on codeine and paracetamol up here. I don't know what I'm saying. But I do want to finish, if I may, with a message to the government.
Dear Starmer, the man whose political strategy seems to revolve around looking slightly confused, while occasionally mumbling into a microphone like he's trying to unlock some ancient secret level of bureaucratic boredom. You'd think after all these years practicing law, he'd be a master of persuasion. But no, he's more like that one guy at a party who tries to tell a joke but forgets the punchline halfway through. Except the joke here is Britain's future. And the punchline? Well, it's a national headache. Jeremy Clarkson and Rachel Reeves.
Right, what's your message to the new government? Do you think they get the kind of rural economy at all?
No, I don't think any of them have set foot outside Kentish Town for the last 35 years. No, they're a hopeless bunch.
So would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
Why? What have you got against him?
Hello? I thought you were running a news operation.
Let's start with his signature move, the art of the non-committal shrug. Starmer's idea of bold leadership is managing to sit on the fence so skillfully it looks like he's auditioning for Seer Ducal. Climate change. He'll say something vaguely eco-friendly, but not so much that the oil lobby gets nervous. Brexit. Let's respect the referendum, but also let's maybe try to fix it. Translation, we're not touching that hot potato. Thanks. It's like watching Jeremy Clarkson try to microwave a cup of tea. Slow, awkward, and inevitably cold in the end.
He says Britain, in the past few years, has, in his opinion, fallen off a cliff. And he said that now we have hit rock bottom. He basically says nothing works. Potholes in our roads, terrible services, the NHS, complete mess. Nothing works well in this country. And we've fallen off a cliff, we've hit rock bottom. Who does Mr. Clarkson blame for this?
Remember when Starmer thought standing outside Parliament holding a plastic cup was going to make him relatable? Oh, the sheer desperation. Because nothing screams, I understand the common man. Like awkwardly clutching a cheap prop, like a stand-up comedian who forgot their punchline and is now just waving a mug around for sympathy. It's as if he's saying, look, I'm just like you, only with £1 million salary and a team of PR people making sure you never actually hear what I mean. Rachel Reeves and Jeremy Clarkson.
He says this is all down to socialism, and then he narrows in on our socialist leader, Keir Starmer, who he said manages to be annoying even when he's not being annoying. But I just thought it was an interesting thing to say, and I think there is a sense among millions of people in this country that something's going wrong with this country. We have gone downhill. It seems to be a worse place to live than, shall we say, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. I blame the Tories for the decline a great deal, but I do think he's got a good point that now the socialists have got their hands on the helm. We're in big trouble, and he's blaming Keir Starmer.
And his speeches, pure comedy gold. If you're in the mood for dry, colourless monologues that put entire rooms to sleep, you half expect a lullaby soundtrack to start playing in the background. The man could turn the most exciting topic, say a grand national fireworks display, into a dull session of tax code revision. Yet somehow, he manages to sound like he's both reading from a script and simultaneously regretting every word. A political leader who sounds like he's reading the terms and conditions of his own policy platform. Riveting stuff. Jeremy Clarkson and Rachel Reeves.
In Keir Starmer and Keir Starmer's government. But do you agree with what he's saying, that there is this pervasive sense that Britain has somehow fallen off a cliff into an abyss of decline and that we've now hit rock bottom? What do you feel, Rafe?
Look, I don't care if you're left wing or you're right wing, if you're woke or unwoke. You'd have to have lived in a cave for the past few years not to know that Jeremy Clarkson is absolutely right. Britain is broken. It's not.
And then there's his talent for dodging answers like an Olympic sport. Ask, what's your plan for the economy? And you get a maze of vagueness leading only to where thinking or considering options, a polite way of saying no idea. Charisma? Like watching paint dry. Smiles last 2 seconds before his poker face returns. Jeremy Clarkson and Rachel Reeves. It's the kind of energy that makes you reach for a double espresso just to survive the next press conference.
It's a big change. It's socialism. The sewage doesn't work. Mobile phone coverage has got worse. And the potholes. He goes on to say, I know I'm sounding like an old person now, but it is shocking. I don't know what they do with the money. Well, I would say...
His handling of party politics, stellar if the goal is losing friends. Starmer makes allies feel like they're in a lecture, not a meeting. Team whispers about his hobby of collecting tax forms. Meetings feel like dental appointments, necessary but soul-crushing. Behind the monotone delivery, he tries to look competent, but ideas pop up like bad pop songs. Forgettable and recycled. Tax policies from dusty cabinets. Health promises vanish post-election. Jeremy Clarkson and Rachel Reeves. A masterclass in dressing up mediocrity.
For the sake of everybody here, and for all the farmers who are stuck at home today, paralysed by a fog of despair over what's been foisted upon them, I beg of the government to be big, to accept that this was rushed through, it wasn't thought out, and it's a mistake. That's the big thing to do, admit it, and back down.
And the media loves him for it, ironically, because in a world where bombastic, loud and often completely bonkers politicians get headlines, Starmer is the soothing beige wallpaper there is, but easily ignored. The political equivalent of plain toast. Some might say that's a smart move, keeping a low profile. But when you're supposed to be the alternative to chaos, maybe try not to look like the human embodiment of mild inconvenience. If leadership were a reality show, Starmer would be voted off by the first round for failing to bring drama, passion, or even the faintest glimmer of excitement. His greatest talent appears to be not offending anyone, which in politics is the fastest way to be utterly forgettable. Voters don't just want a grown-up in charge. They want someone who can actually inspire, shock, or at least make a memorable speech that isn't a sleep aid. So yes, Jeremy Clarkson and Rachel Reeves might have a point when they mock Starmer. Because watching Starmer lead is like watching a car drive at 10 miles per hour in a 70 zone, while the driver nervously checks their phone every 5 seconds. It's safe, yes, but also painfully slow and guaranteed to get everyone stuck in traffic behind him, wondering why anyone thought this was a good idea in the first place.
Rachel Reeves has told us, 72%? 72% of farmers are going to be unaffected by this. How many people here, if you'd raise your hands, are from a family farm? I want to see, right. I hope you can see that. I hope we've got our cameras from the show up high to see. That's a lot of hands. Now, keep them up, and I want you to lower them if you think, and you've had time to work this out, you think you're going to be unaffected by the changes to APR and BPR. Put your hands down if you're going to be unaffected. Thank you. My case rests.
Oh, Rachel Reeves. The human embodiment of a loading bar stuck at 99%. If British politics had a snooze button, she'd be it. The woman who makes beige look like a bold fashion statement. Honestly, if she were a dessert, she'd be a plain rice cake served with a lecture on macroeconomic stability. And then there's Jeremy Clarkson, a man who once launched a Reliant Robin into the stratosphere just because he could. Looking at Reeves' economic plan like it's a meat-free sausage roll served with a side of homework. Jeremy Clarkson, who built an entire media empire by yelling at machinery, has somehow stumbled into more economic common sense than Rachel Reeves and her army of spreadsheets ever will.
Crunch weeks on UK economy. I just don't quite know what Rachel Reeves is playing at. Of course, we'll talk more about this later on. And the fact is that many people have been saying, where's Wally? Rachel Reeves has done a runner. She's now in China. Mortgage rates are expected to rise due to the worsening economy, according to experts. This is a significant challenge for Rachel Reeves. That's the understatement of the year, I would think. This is what...
Well, I've committed to just have one budget a year. I'm not coming back to this in the spring.
Parliament.
No, I'm not going to make commitments to never change taxes again. That would be irresponsible. But this is a once-in-a-Parliament budget to wipe the slate clean after the mess that the Conservatives have left us.
Just final question.
Rachel Reeves storms onto the scene, gripping a calculator like it's a lightsaber, declaring she's going to save the economy with something called fiscal responsibility, because nothing screams economic revival like tightly clenching the purse strings while the roof caves in. She's rebooted austerity like it's a Marvel sequel. Austerity 2, Budget Harder. Jeremy Clarkson's idea of a recovery plan usually involves horsepower, swearing and explosives. He sees Reeves's plan and probably has to lie down with a whiskey. Because Rachel Reeves's vision of a thriving economy is one where no one spends anything, no one changes anything, and we all just sit in the corner quietly admiring the nation's RRA credit rating like it's a family heirloom.
All this will be Rachel Reeves. What, the curtains? Yep, she'll have those as well.
Got to the end of season 4 of Clarkson's Farm, absolutely loved it, and I couldn't help but notice someone popping up on the screen and people all around the world outside the UK saying, well, who is she? I can tell you. That's Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the money boss, and there's been an almighty fallout since her budget last year, which imposes inheritance tax on agricultural assets worth over £1 million. Now, to keep it short, if you think about the price of land, the property, and also the machinery needed to produce food to feed us and also to protect our countryside, you can see how quite easily it gets over £1 million, and that's why 75%, according to the National Farmers Union of Farms, will likely be impacted by this awful tax.
Rachel Reeves' strategy: don't borrow to invest. Fixing the N8s or schools is extravagant. Hoard money like a dragon. Potholes deepen while she worships spreadsheets. Jeremy Clarkson knows you must invest to get returns and would snort at her approach. Reeves sees a broken tractor and writes to the IMF instead of fixing it.
Let's move on to talk about Rachel Reeves. All eyes are on the British Chancellor ahead of spending review. Lots of bickering about which departments are going to get spending cuts. But Liam, I mean, the real context for this is the fact that the economy is not growing. It's stagnant. We have an extraordinarily high tax burden. Inflation isn't going away. That's the real meat of this.
Well, I'm going to start, Fraser, as is my personality increasingly these days.
Rachel Reeves' theme: stability. No ambition, no disruption, just collapse on schedule with neat reports. Jeremy Clarkson knows spending helps. She guards the budget like a jewel. Less chancellor, more librarian. Mention investment, and she mutters bond ye like a ghost.
If she'd have wanted to take out the likes of James Dyson and investment bankers and so on, she would have used a sniper's rifle. But she's used a blunderbuss and she's hit all this lot. It was, as I understand it, it was a very rushed last-minute decision. And I think, we all make mistakes in life, and I think it's time for them to say, you know what, we've cocked this one up a bit.
She's painfully boring, like a tax return in a storm. Speeches inspire nothing. Jeremy Clarkson turns muddy fields into entertainment. boosting the economy more than Rachel Reeves. Her discipline leaves families stuck behind spreadsheets. Thatcher without iron, Blair without charm, Sunak without silicon. She makes moderation extreme.